What's up, everybody? This video is actually about the law of attraction. It's a very powerful concept, and I'm going to share with you my experience on how it applied to my own success and my own upbringing. And if this is your first time watching Sales Remastered, I thank you very much for stopping by. If the video makes sense, please like, comment, dislike, put any comment, and share, and consider subscribing. But if you're returning back to Sales Remastered, as you know, I do a series of vlogs in where I share some of my experience in some of the challenges that I see going throughout the day. And I do mentor people around me, plus also people all across the U.S. And through my experience, those that I've mentored have been able to achieve the results that they want much faster. And whether they ran into me here on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or even SalesRemastered.com, I'm thankful that we were able to connect. And so this video, what I'm going to do is actually share with you the experience that I've had with this concept on law of attraction. And to some of you watching this video, you know, whether that's on your radar or whatever your view is on like the law of attraction or the law or certain laws that govern kind of our progress, whether it be physically, mentally, or spiritually, you know, you have your own perception of it, and I respect that. But let me show you how I believe it applies and the concept behind it. So when I originally started working in corporate America, I was only 19 years old. And coming into corporate America from just a standard regular like telemarketing job or some sort of call center job where they weren't necessarily strict on like dress code or what have you, and the pay was definitely higher because it was more or less in corporate America. I was about 19 years old, and I looked nothing like the way I do now. I had a shaved head. I was very thuggish, if you will. I was still young. And at the time when I had learned about certain things within the work environment that I had joined, such as what it takes to be successful, what successful people look like, and what they dress like, this was my first exposure to that legitimate lifestyle, if you will. And so, you know, being 19, being still so young, I was very immature minded, right? And so I had a shaved head, and I'll never forget, you know, constantly being asked to tuck my shirt in, because at the time I didn't think that was cool, and you know, I thought being a rebel was even cooler because that was just my mindset at the time. And so I was fortunate to get a telemarketing position that was for this mortgage company. It's a mortgage company called AmeriQuest, and it was actually a subsidiary company called Town and Country Credit. And you know, it was only a part-time gig. I worked there and also did another part-time job with AT&T, and they were both call center jobs. And you know, I was very good at being a telemarketer, and it's just because I had fun with it. Anyways, fast forward about 5 to 6 months in, I was promoted from a telemarketer to what was called a loan officer, and this is just basically a senior sales position. And of course the pay went up, the dynamics went up, because the loan officers were something that we looked at as kind of like varsity, right? Like they were the big boys on the playing field. They made the most money, they had more responsibility, and they just had kind of this aura, this unknown aura about them. Like, man, I wonder what they talk about. I wonder how much money they made and things like that. So anyway, I was able to cross the bridge and get into that environment. And being, of course, as young as I was, you know, my dress code had to change. So I had to wear a shirt, you know, nice shirt, some slacks, and always tuck in your shirt and wear a tie, because, you know, you graduated from telemarketing. And so my punchline is that when I first got on, of course, you have a good idea of who's doing what, who's winning, who's the top producers. And essentially I saw them, but I saw them from a distance, because I was so shut off, being so thuggish as I wasn't necessarily, you know, the kid that opened up to you and talked to you and asked you things. I walked around with a chip on my shoulder and kind of kept to myself. You know, to some degree I still do that today. And you know, I'm working on that, and I'm trying to be more open. But my experience in identifying who the successful ones were on that sales floor, gave me an example of how they dressed. And so what I did was I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be a top agent, so I dressed like them. But again, I didn't open up and communicate with them. So I thought that if I dressed like that, for some whatever reason, I'd be successful too. And so, I started tucking in my shirt, started wearing a tie, started looking very smooth, and I was getting frustrated because about 6 months in, I just wasn't getting the same results. And I was trying my hardest, I was working the extra hours, and I just couldn't get it. And I had a mentor at the time. I'll never forget his name. His name was man, I just forgot his name. His name was Bailey. And Bailey had this one saying. He said, "Call me Milton Bradley because I got all the game." And he's a real cool guy. And I asked him, because he wasn't like a top producer, he was a mediocre sales rep. And I asked him, I said, I'm trying my hardest just to get up there. I want to get to the top. I want to get to the top. And he mentioned, he's all, "Hey man, if you want to get to the top, do what those people are doing." And I didn't really absorb it at the time, because it was Milton. Milton Bradley. Milton Bailey was his name, and he used to always say, "But call me Milton Bradley because I got all the game." So Milton Bailey, man, if you're watching this, big ups to you. I appreciate you, and your words still apply to me today, because at that time, even though I didn't absorb it, really what he meant was, you actually have to walk and talk and act and do as the successful do. And so it was beyond just the dress. It was beyond just the exterior look of being a producer. Because just because you have fancy clothes, or you wear nice clothes, or you look clean, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a producer. What governs your ability to be a producer is if you're willing to do the actions and adopt the mindset of those who are already successful. And so it dawned on me, and it said, okay, well, besides dressing like the successful, what if I try to figure out the way that they think? And so what I did was I asked if I can shadow them. And I remember, it was so awkward because I was so closed off. I was an introvert. These people were way older than me. I was just some young knucklehead kid. I was more concerned of how they thought of me. I was concerned of what they thought of me, if they would judge me, if they didn't think I was qualified to be on the same floor as them. And it was all in my head, because when I actually opened up and I asked them if I could shadow them, they were more than willing to let me in, and it was cool. It just required me to take the first step and take action. And that's an important fact in itself, is just know that a lot of the shit holding you down, and a lot of the stuff that's anchoring you from advancing and moving forward or stepping up your game, typically is just an illusion. It's just your mindset. It's what you believe. And so you may hold back from it. And all along, it's actually you holding yourself back, even though you want to move forward. So I know that sounds like a riddle right now, but it'll make sense. And so what I started to do was shadow them and really kind of look through their eyes and actually be in their shoes from the day, from the way they started their day to the way they ended their day. And I started to adopt certain habits from them, like always having more than 50% of your day assigned just to new business origination, because it's so easy to get caught up once you build a pipeline. You commit the salesman sin, and you believe the income is already there, or if you somehow babysit the files that you have in the pipeline, then you're going to make more money than you've ever made, when actually that momentum's already gone. So it's got its own little engine to go through. And anyway, where I'm getting at is when I started to adopt the tendencies of these top producers and started to act, walk, and talk like them. I didn't just look like them. I was doing everything like them, to a degree where my actions started to yield the results that I wanted. And so here's where I'm getting is the law of attraction is not just sexual. It's not just for the opposite sex. It's not just the cliche of think positive thoughts and positive things will happen to you. I'm going to break it down a little bit further. The reason why it happens is because you are so focused on being the better version of yourself. And what I mean by that is it's beyond just looking and dressing the part. You actually have to live the part. And so I think that starting, right, that just like me even wanting to start to shadow with some producers on my floor, maybe even a producer on your floor, you don't want to bring it up because maybe that ego or that pride or that fear of rejection or fear of being judged, or you got too much class because you think you're a veteran and they're new, and why would you ask them because you're a veteran? Whatever the situation is that can actually be your anchor from progressing. And if you're able to be open-minded and just be more creative on how you ask, you don't necessarily need to say, hey, can I shadow you? Just say, hey, good job. How did you get around it? I'm interested to know. Is another way to word your approach. And just doing that will show you that you are better off working as a team versus trying to take on the challenge your own way, like I did. And so I guess the punchline of the story and the moral of the story is that the only person you really have to compare yourself to each day, and the only person that you should really want to become each day, is not necessarily the successful person on your floor. It's not the owner of your company. It's not your manager. It's not the top producer. It is the better version of yourself. And when you learn to compare yourself only to the better version of yourself, not to another competitor, not to another company, not to another agent, not to another being, you stop comparing yourself to them or that person, because you are not on the same vibration as that person. You're not on the same frequency. They went through their own path. And so if you beat your head for a year or 2 years and you don't have as much as this person who's gone through it for 20 years, don't get mad. Just understand that your time will come, as long as you walk, talk, and act like the better version of yourself. And so I want you to think about where you want to be. Everyone has a destination. Everyone has a goal, whether it's income, whether it's buying a house, whether it's buying a new car, whether it's creating a family, or whatever your ideal destination is, your goal, your milestone, the big milestone. It can't just be, I want to make a couple grand this month. Think beyond that. Where do you want to be this time next year, in 5 years, and in 10 years? That is the big goal. And if you can identify who you want to be and you narrow it down to really think, how does that person you want to be act? How do they talk? How do they manage their day? How do they react? What are they doing? How do they feel? That sense of confidence that you would feel once you hit that destination. You have to commit in my opinion, the first hour of each day to treat yourself to understand who that better version of yourself is, and really, really hone in and act, talk, and walk, and just be that person. It's going to be tricky because, you're going to want to think like a millionaire, right? You're going to want to be like an owner of a business, but you might just be a junior salesman. And so everything you see, touch, and can feel may not necessarily match up to what your thought process is. But I promise you, if you can hone in and just really stay focused, walk, talk, and really look the part, just act as that perfect, better version of yourself, do what they would do, you are naturally going to attract the results of that better version of yourself. And so if you don't know what ingredients you need to have a better version of yourself, this is where I can come into play. Because I've been on this earth for 36 years, I've been selling literally all my life, I think that I can help you. I can help you from the trial and errors that I've gone through, and I can share with you my experience on how I got over them. And if you can take out the nuts and bolts that apply to your own scenario, then I think you can maybe come away from it with some information that is non-biased, meaning that it's not information you're going to get from your mom, it's not information you're going to get from your best friend or your manager or anyone else. It literally is a third person looking in, and this is my experience. So if you can relate where you feel like, there's just much more out there, like you haven't hit your level yet, like you are doing everything you can to be like this person, but you're just not getting the same results as that person. And I think that this will help you. And really the answer is why you're not getting the results of that person is because you're not that person. Your results are your results. And it all starts with your mindset and your perception. Do you see it as a victory, or do you see it as a defeat and loss because it's not as equivalent to the victory of that person? And you have to take it by baby baby bites, if you will, meaning that your time will come. Just stay the course, really get into that mindset of being the better version of yourself. Walk and talk like you own the joint, you know, like get that confidence boosted, you know, going through your pores, because that in itself will attract everything that you want. It's as simple as that. But you know why it's a challenge? It's just a challenge because society is hardwired to not be content, is hardwired to believe that everything is a grind, everything's is hard to attain, having money is bad. You know, there's all these wirings that's going out that is programmed in today with most of society, because of media, because of the news, because of reality TV. You know, that we just have this misconception of really what it takes to get what you want. And at the end of the day, it just takes action. It just takes understanding what you want, number one, because you'd be amazed how many people just kind of want better, but they want better for the next month or the next year, but they're not necessarily focused on how can I improve the next 10 years or the next 15 or the next 20. And whether the reason being is because they're maybe not at that age at that time. You know, I didn't start thinking about this until recently. So, you know, I'm 36, and where I'm getting at now is really understanding the concept. Life is so long. And there will be a point where you will face a challenge where you're not sure you're going to overcome it. And my best advice to you is just take on that advice. Is just take on that challenge. You know, you might look at it as a risk because you have a risk of losing and not following through on that challenge or not achieving that challenge. And I would say the only risk that you have is if you don't try. Because if you take a risk and you go through that challenge, and let's say you lose, you're unable to deliver, in the very least, you're walking away with the experience necessary for even taking on that challenge. And so the next challenge that comes your way, even though it may seem daunting, you have that confidence that just builds up. It's like a confidence bank. You just build it up. And let's just say you actually follow through, you come through on that challenge, then you of course are happy, right? But more importantly, now you have that confidence still. So either way, you're going to gain some sort of confidence, even though it might suck at the time because you really wanted to get it, but you didn't get it. You still got to keep trucking. And I think that that's probably the challenge or that you'll face if you try to adopt this method and really understand and study who that better version of yourself is. And let's say you don't see results right away, the challenge that you'll face is reverting back to your old ways. And you know, that's your call. It takes time, it takes practice, but you have to really want it. You either want it or you really want it. Does that make sense? So I hope that this helps, and I really do hope that you guys consider a different perspective from the law of attraction. It really is more than just the cliche sentence, think positive thoughts and positive things will happen. It really is fact. It's like the law of gravity. You don't have to learn gravity. Gravity just works. Well, the law of attraction works as well, and it's actually something you can learn. So learn it here at Sales Remastered. Please like, comment, and share, and I hope that this made your day. I'll see you guys later.